Hey there! Today we're going to play with some decorative stitches. Do you play with your decorative stitches? We're going to be doing some twin needle sewing. We're going to play with some heavier thread, and I'm going to show you how to make this great little notebook cover. It's going to be a full day here on Sewing Tech Talk. Hi, I'm Kathy, and this is Sewing Tech Talk. We have a giveaway for today's video. It's this great pack of decorative thread, which is cool for decorative stitches. Every time you like, share, or comment, you're entered for a chance to win a 18-pack of cool decorative thread, which is perfect for decorative stitches. And that's what we're talking about today, decorative stitches. Your machine probably came with them. So they make the ordinary into the extraordinary. I made this little blouse, I put decorative stitches down the front, and it really changes it. So let's play with decorative stitches. First though, we're going to play with something a little bit different. We're going to put a twin needle in the machine. Now this machine, this is a Janome, and it is a Janome 4120 QDC. Comes with all kinds of fun stuff. Comes with extra feet, which is pretty cool. And it also comes with an assortment of needles and everything you need to do some twin needle stitching. Now, twin needle stitching really is cool because it gives you two parallel lines of stitching with just making the one regular pass like you normally would. So what does that look like? That looks like this. Look how cool that looks. So that's just some basic thread on the top of the fabric, just did some diamond shaped lines, and it really takes an ordinary fabric into the extraordinary, I really think. Now today we have a handout, and the handout for today is directions on how to put together this nice little notebook cover. It's a great way to practice your decorative stitches, and it's a super gift for just about anybody. So after we finish playing with decorative stitches, we're going to go to the table and I'm going to show you how to put one of these together. But your handout tells you not only how to put it together, but how to cut a perfect size for your notebook. And you can cover just about any notebook. So let's start with that twin needle. Now the twin needles, two needles put together on one shank, and I've already put it in the machine. Now you'll need two top threads. If you don't have two top threads, just wind a bobbin of the whatever thread that you're going to use, and you thread both of them down through the machine just like you normally would. They commingle till they get down to the needle, and when you get to the needle, one goes in one side and one goes in the other side. That's as hard as it is. Now with this machine also comes with this great little seam guide, which is going to help me sew on the straight and narrow, because decorative stitches aren't just for fabric. I'm stitching on this nice piece of ribbon. It's kind of fun. Decorative stitches are really just long, skinny embroideries. And that means that you kind of need some stable fabric to do some stitching. So what I did on this little piece of ribbon is I did use a stabilizer. And for most decorative stitches, you will need some sort of a stabilizer. The one I used on the ribbon is a tacky, wet and gone, which means that when I get done doing my decorative stitching, put it in water and the stabilizer goes away, and all I have left is my ribbon. Now you don't need necessarily a specialty stabilizer, just something to keep the fabric nice and stable. A medium tearaway, just about anything will do. You just need to help that fabric hold up to the decorative stitches. Now I'm going to stitch along this side, and I'm using actually a decorative stitch with my twin needle. It's stitch number 29, and it's like a nice little scallop. This machine also has a feature, so if I want to do the certain decorative stitches that I can do with the twin needle, all I have to do is touch that button and it automatically sets the decorative stitch up for the twin needle that literally comes with the machine. Now you can get other twin needles, you can get them as wide as 7 millimeters if you want to, but for using this function on this machine, you'll want a twin needle no more than 2 millimeters wide, and it comes with one. Now this machine also comes with a couple of feet that work great for decorative stitches. It comes with this one, which is the standard foot, and it has a handy dandy little red line to show you where the center is in case you're marking your fabric and you want to follow along. It also comes with an open toe foot, which I find really helpful for decorative stitches. That means you can see exactly where you're going to go. So I'm going to put the regular foot and the traditional decorative stitch foot aside, and I'm going to use this open toe foot. Now I've put my seam guide on the machine. It's a nice long one, so it's really going to help me stitch right along where I need to go. I'm going to start stitching. I've noted where I want the beginning stitch to be to make my scallops match as best as I can. I'm marking on that wash away stabilizer, and it doesn't leave a mark on the fabric, which is another reason to use the wash away stabilizer. Because I'm using this open toe foot, I can see exactly where that needle is going to come down exactly on my mark. So I'm going to rotate my needle down, make sure I'm hitting, and I hit it right where I wanted it to be. Now, I want to stitch along here, and because I have that stabilizer on there, it should match from side to side, and the seam guide is going to keep me on the straight and narrow. Now this machine has a speed control as well. Now when I'm doing stitching with a twin needle, I got a little fast there going, right? So I want to stitch a little bit slower just to let the machine do its thing. So I accidentally don't go a little bit too fast. I'm going to lower the top speed of the machine. It's not one of those great features you get when you get an electronic machine. I have needle up and needle down, and I have scissors as well. I personally generally don't use my scissors when I'm using a twin needle. Now the book doesn't say I'm not supposed to. Maybe it's just a superstition because I've been sewing a long time. Oops! I forgot to shorten my stitch length to make my scallops match from one side to the other. That's why you sew a sample. But you can see you can make this scallop go different sizes to different size scallops depending on the stitch length that you choose. So you have lots of total options. It's a sample, it's okay. So that's twin needle sewing. It actually works great straight stitch, but you can use some decorative stitches as well. So now, let's change over to do another decorative stitch with another great option. The machine comes with tons of decorative stitches, as you can see, but when you change things out, when you change the stitch length or change to a different kind of thread, then that really changes everything. So let's go with the thicker thread as opposed to the standard thread that I have in the machine. In the machine, I have this great machine embroidery thread. It's a size 40. I'm going to go with a thicker thread. Now in decorative threads, the bigger the number, the smaller the thread. The smaller the number, the thicker the thread. So I'm going to change over to a number 12 thread, which, as you know now, is going to be a thicker thread than the one I've just used. Now when you use a thicker thread, you have to use a bigger needle. And a lot of times if you look on the box of the thread, so I'm going to be using some Decora, which is pretty nice. On the box, it shows you that this is a number 12 thread, and it recommends that I use a size 100 or 16 needle. So I'm going to change over to that kind of a needle. Now, when you get your needles, they will have numbers on the top, and it'll tell you exactly what type of a needle it is. I know that my 100s live over here. Now when I finish sewing with my 100, I'm going to put it back in the same spot because they're stamped and they're numbered, but it's kind of hard to see. Do you have needles that you don't know what the number is? I actually have my handy dandy, oh my goodness, what number is that? Because I have a light and a magnifying glass, and that's what I need to see these tiny numbers that are stamped on the needle. So I can see, yep, that's a size 100. Well, I know that because I put it in there. And we're going to change over from this twin needle to just the standard needle, but it's a bigger one. So we're going to take off our thread. and change over to a number 12 Decora thread. Now this is a really pretty rayon thread, which means it has a lot of cool shine. Take off my stitch seam guide, and I am going to change over to a different bobbin. Because I was using a black bobbin before, I'm going to switch over to just a regular machine embroidery thread bobbin. That thread is a little bit thinner, so it can go a little bit farther. I could also use a traditional thread in the bobbin if I wanted to, but this thread goes just a little bit farther. It's a quick set bobbin. I also have a spool pin, auxiliary spool pin that comes with the machine. If I want the thread to come out sideways, I can use that opposed to the thread coming over on the standard spool pin. This machine comes loaded with all kinds of accessories. Janome's thought of everything. So I'm going to thread this up standard way. Oops, I got to change that needle out. And now I'm going to use my needle threader to thread this thread on in. Let's stitch on either side of this really pretty piece of ribbon. I have this pretty piece of ribbon, and I'm going to choose my stitch, and I'm going to use my open toe foot so that I can see that I'm stitching right along the side of it. I've changed my needle over to a bigger needle because I'm using a thicker thread, but I don't really have to make any modifications to the stitch necessarily. Now what I am going to do is I'm going to lower my top tension just a tiny little bit. I want this decorative stitch to pull out to the back, and so I don't necessarily need it to be an even balanced stitch. I'm going to remember to change my tension back to the traditional setting, which is covered by this little box right here, but I'm just going to lighten it up just a little bit. Remember, if you sew on a sample, you know exactly. Now let's find that decorative stitch. Now on this little chart that comes with the machine, it actually can come right up here and fold back down, so it's always at your fingertips when you need it. I know I need stitch number 42, so all I have to do on this machine is tell it that I no longer want a twin needle because I'm not using that anymore. I'm in mode number 3, and I touch number 42, and it automatically switches it over to the stitch that I want. Because it's an electronic machine, everything's automatically set up for me. So now I'm going to stitch along the side. I put some stabilizer on the back, so I'm good to go. And I fastened my ribbon down with some Wonder Tape. Wonder Tape is wonderful. It holds everything where you want it to be. So now let's stitch this down. And I'm going to come right along that edge of it, and it's going to catch that ribbon. But I can see that I have Now remember, I've slowed down my top speed of my machine just a little bit with that speed control on the top. That's really going to help me not accidentally go just a little bit faster. Now I've stopped my machine on the very outside edge of the stitch, and that's where it started. Now I'm going to cut my thread. Now, can I come back to this a little bit later? Absolutely. With this machine, because it's an electronic machine, I can go to the very beginning of any stitch. All I have to do is simply insert that number again, and it's actually going to go to the very beginning of that stitch. Now, what if I want to do just a single motif? If I want to do just one motif, maybe I'm making a tack down somewhere, then all I have to do is, before I start to stitch, when I've selected a stitch, is touch this little reinforcement key. And that tells this machine, just make one. That's a really handy dandy feature if you ever need it. So all I have to do is set up my machine. I'm good to go. Look how pretty that is right along the edge. Now that I'm looking at it, I think I'd like another little stitch right along in here, and it's going to be pretty easy to do. So take your stitches, combine them, flip them, flop them, whatever you need to do to get some fun decorative stitch going. For this decorative notebook cover, just lay them on there. Just have fun. Put as many on as you want. It's a great way to practice, and it's a great gift for anybody. So we've played with a twin needle. We've played with our open toe foot. We used some pretty thick, sexy thread. Don't forget you can combine stitches, and don't forget you have some alphabets too. So get in there and play. Now, after you do your little top of your little notebook cover, we're going to have to put it together. Don't forget, your handout tells you exactly all the dimensions that you need for any notebook. But we're going to go to the cutting table and we're going to see exactly what you need to do, because I think you'll agree this is a pretty fast and easy project to give gifts for anybody. So I'm going to meet you right over there at the table. We're going to leave our little Janome behind and we're going to put together a notebook. So now let's put this little notebook together. It's a pretty simple process. When I make the cover for the notebook, I make it a little bit larger than I really need. That gives me plenty of room. Now you would think you could just measure from the side to the side with the book open and that would work, but it doesn't, because you have to clear the spine that's on the back. So this is the trick that I use. I've made my outside piece a little bit larger. I'm going to turn it over to the back. Remember, this is all in your handout. So I'm going to mark the one side. And now I'm going to turn the notebook closed. And with the notebook closed, you're going to have the fabric on the outside going around that outside edge. Let's make sure that line is good. I'm going to mark a line right around in here. Now I'm going to add a little bit extra all the way around. I'm going to mark down the height of the notebook. And I'm going to go out about an extra 1/8 inch all the way around. Now, if your machine has a basting function, or if you can make your stitch length a little bit longer, I suggest you do a quick sew around, but when you get all the parts and pieces together, slip it on the book just to make sure that everything fits. Because you don't want it too loose, because if you have it too loose, it kind of falls off, and you don't want it too tight because then it just won't close. So we've done that. We've marked the wrong side. Now, pretty simple to put the extra pieces together. The outside cover's held on with 2 flaps, and we do have a lining on the inside. So here's my parts and pieces. I have my flaps, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put right sides together, making sure I know where that line is that I've marked on the back, to make sure everything is good. Now this piece is folded in half. I need one for the other side. Right sides together. That's pretty simple. Now I have this edge, which would be a raw edge if I didn't take care of it. All you do is you take a piece of fabric that's bigger than that outside edge, and that's going to be your lining. When I'm ready to sew, I turn it over. I make sure I pin everything and I know where everything is. I sew around the line that I've marked and I'm good to go. You want to make it a little bit extra fancy? You can use put a little bookmark in, and that bookmark will be coming in right on the one side. A little piece of ribbon would be great. Put it in there, and when you sew it all together, then you're going to have a little bookmark that flaps over the top. Remember, it's all in your handout. You can cover any size book. Here's little ones. These are handy to get. Here is a big sketch pad. It's big, it's long, it opens the other way. No problem. You just need fabric that's big enough. Inexpensive, and you can get all kinds of journals. So I think that you agree this is a pretty easy project. Now, if you have a great machine like the Janome, then I think that you even have a bigger advantage, because you can play with your stitches and you get a bonus gift too. So I'm going to shoot it over to George. I think you're going to want to, they're like potato chips. You can't make just one. So I'm going to shoot it over to George. He's going to tell you more about the Janome. It's a great little machine, and have fun making journal and notebook covers all day long. See you soon.
Thanks, Cathy. That was another incredible presentation. Don't forget to click on the link where you can download Cathy's guide to the presentation. The Janome 4120 QDC-T is our most popular portable machine. It weighs a mere 13 pounds, but it sews like a top model machine. It has a 7-piece feed system. Now what this does, it gives wonderful fabric control from sewing with heavy fabric, working with sheer fabric, working with knit fabric. It really does handle the fabric beautifully. Plus it has 120 built-in stitches that are easily accessed by its screen. And you have all kinds of stitches, including applique and quilting stitches and all kinds of blanket stitches, utility, buttonholes. It has 7 different buttonholes that are auto-sized just by putting the button in the foot. It also has an automatic thread cutter, an automatic needle threader, as well as comes with a wide selection of bonus accessories, which include this walking foot for working with layers of fabric, this guide that attaches to the walking foot. It comes with a secondary guide. It comes with a 1/4-inch patchwork foot that is great for chain piecing, as well as an open toe free motion foot. Click on the link to order your machine or give us a call at 1-800-865-9664. Bye for now.